Working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Roy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for You is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for You.
Welcome to Working for You. My name is Jacqueline Bryan. I'm your host for today. And firstly, let me apologize for the late start. We were experiencing some technical difficulties, but thankfully we were able to work them out. And it's always a pleasure being here with you. I'm very happy we were able to work them out because today's program, I think, is going to be a very interesting one for business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs. We are joined by members of NEDD. And I think the acronym is a very fun one. They're going to say what NEDD is shortly. But NEDD is definitely an acronym that a lot of persons who own businesses or want to own businesses should find out about. Of course, this program runs until 3 p.m. We take calls after we have a brief conversation, so you can make a note of all your questions. Today, I am joined by the Director of Industry, Commerce and NEDD, Mr. Philip Brown. He is accompanied by Danielle Richards. She's the Marketing and Industry Officer at NEDD, and Delwyn Delaney, who's the Project Officer at NEDD. And I'm very happy that they were all able to come here and speak with us today. So firstly, tell them what NEDD means and what it is you do.
Well, NEDD, as it's rightly stated, is an acronym, and it stands for the National Entrepreneurial Development Division. We are housed at the Blade and Commercial Development. That's for persons who don't know that area. That's basically we are in the Nagico building adjacent to the credit union building. So I mean, you can come in. Our hours are from 8 to 4, and that's where you can find NEDD.
Now, NEDD is committed to moving entrepreneurs forward. I remember that slogan very distinctly in my mind. How do you go about doing that?
Basically, how we go about doing that, we are guided by our mandate and the Small Business Development Act. And we go about that through technical assistance. So anything that as it relates to technical assistance for the small business owners or persons who are aspiring to be small business owners, whether it be business plan writing or proposal writing, duty-free concession, consultation, one-on-one, or in a group setting, whatever technical assistance is needed for that business owner, we can provide that.
So technical assistance would include primarily training?
Training as well, that's correct, training as well.
And the other services you offer? Because when you say entrepreneurs and assistants, people might immediately think, okay, maybe I can get a business loan as well.
No, unfortunately, we haven't reached that stage as yet. But what we do, we almost like indirectly assist, where we would lead, and we have working relations with financial institutions and in good relations with those financial institutions. So if you need a business proposal, which is very critical to obtaining a loan, we can provide that type of service for you.
So is it a walking thing, or do you have to make an appointment?
We would prefer appointments, but generally persons will just walk in and they're not turned away. We welcome them openly, and we sit down and have a conversation and see how best we can assist them in their needs.
So who would you say is your clientele? Would it be people who already own businesses, or just people who want to start up a business?
Basically, it's everybody. We don't decipher one segment from the next. Persons, whether it be age, the demographics don't matter, age, sex, the type of business, it don't matter. Once you have a small business, and again we are guided by the Small Business Act in terms of what is a small business, but once you have some sort of interest, we welcome you openly.
And that's an interesting point. What is a small business?
A small business is defined as an operation where we have less than 25 persons employed. We have an asset base which is under 1 million PC dollars, and your sales or income would be less than $2 million per annum. That's a definition that is carried primarily by the region CARICOM, the OECS, we say. And as Delwyn would have mentioned, we do a sort of hand-holding type activity for entrepreneurs and potential entrepreneurs, existing entrepreneurs. So even with regards to a business plan per se, so that you can get funding, we would not write it for you, but we'll write it with you, so that you as the entrepreneur would be fully aware as to what is in that business plan, because it would do you no good if we write it for you and you are expected to operate a business which was guided by a plan. You know?
Now, when you gave the description of what a small business is it safe to assume that probably most businesses in the Federation will fall into that category?
Absolutely. Sometimes when we are in the international setting and we look at our definition as opposed to theirs, we realize, well, most of our businesses might even be micro when we look at that international scale. But yes, what we have in the Federation would primarily be small businesses, medium size. So that's why the sector is referred to as the MSME sector, which is a micro, small, and medium enterprise sector. That's the range that we will classify businesses in.
So this definition is kind of unique to our situation then?
The OECS,
yeah.
the immediate region, yes.
Small island states.
Small island states. That's
okay,
correct.
well, fantastic. Do you think then that your services, the services that you offer, are utilized to the extent that they could be?
No. And it is something that we, perhaps it would have worked to our advantage. And when I say that, we started in 2009. And whenever we would do outreach, because we do programs, we go to the communities and so on, we would see an influx of persons. But what we didn't want to do is to have an influx of persons and we don't have the resources in terms of staff. And for quite some time it was, Delwyn and myself, maybe for the first 5 years or so, it would have been Delwyn and myself as the two officers in NEDD. However, in recent times we have been given the resources so that we can promote our services more and then anticipate an influx of persons who would want some technical assistance rendered. So, but I would say persons generally, entrepreneurs, tend to shy away from training. A lot of entrepreneurs don't like to avail themselves to training. You offer certain services, and you maybe it's a record keeping training, and you would get some feedback sometimes. Well, they don't think they have to do that. So we are encouraging persons to avail themselves to training, because to run a business, there are standards. If you're going to compete, and we need to understand now that we're not competing against the person who we're seeing now, but it's the person who we don't even see, and yet they're right at our doorsteps. So we would want to encourage persons to avail themselves to the opportunities for training and technical assistance that's provided by NEDD, which is soon to be transitioned into something that we'll speak of later.
Yeah, we have some exciting news about NEDD that we're going to be discussing in just a bit, but clearly the division has grown a lot over the years. So what are some of the challenges that you faced? I think we can qualify what you just said as one of them, that sometimes you offer these training seminars and the response probably isn't what you would want it to be. So what are some of the other challenges that you've been facing over the years?
Well, as we would have indicated, resources will always be a problem, and yes, we can always do more. So we keep looking for ways in which we have been told by some persons that NEDD would have been perhaps the best kept secret in the federation. While we don't agree, we would really hasten to suggest that we are there and ready to serve. But resources, there are times when we really don't have the level of resources to address one of the other things that we would see as a challenge sometimes is how we can get our people to access not only the training that we offer, but maybe even markets around us. Standards are, something that persons will have to be looking at. As a matter of fact, we are currently in discussions with the Taiwanese when we look at maybe what our farmers can do, what our agro processors can do, and stuff like that, in terms of small machinery, so that they can enhance their processes and have proper labeling and proper packaging and all of that kind of stuff. And the challenge is to kind of get persons to understand that they need to look beyond just selling on the corner or doing something for the man who you're seeing in front of you. We really want to get persons to see beyond that, see your clientele. We are way beyond that. And of course, we don't claim to be all things to all persons. I mean, we would not have everything in house. But one of the very good things about NEDD and the soon to be SBDC is how we network with sister organizations, brother organizations across the region, across the world for that matter, so that we can bring benefits to the sector and to our entrepreneurs. But yes, that in itself is a challenge in terms of how people access and are willing to participate in these activities. And as we spoke of resources, one of the things that we know we haven't been able to do very well, and again we are transitioning to something that would alleviate some of these issues, is the way we have been able to do our monitoring and extension services to entrepreneurs whom we would have served in one way or the other, and may not have gotten the opportunity to go back and follow up and see what they're doing. That's another area that we find to be a challenge for us, along with how we are able to report and communicate to the nation as to the impact we are having on the economy. I mean, if we have served 10 entrepreneurs, what impact would that have had? How many persons would have been employed, stuff like that. And again, our transition is aimed at addressing that as well.
So basically, a lot of what you said should be addressed once the transition kicks in. Absolutely. And I guess by helping entrepreneurs to achieve these standard operating procedures, also known as SOPs, then that too can assist them in accessing external markets, right? Okay. Well, that sounds pretty exciting. So hopefully, if there's anybody listening and they're interested in exporting or expanding their services and businesses regionally, internationally, then they definitely want to get in contact with the National Entrepreneur Development Division. So let's talk about the transition then, because my next question was going to be, how are you going to address the challenges? But if a lot of the challenges are going to be addressed through the transition, we might as well move on to that. So you're going to be becoming a small business development center come next month. That launch takes place next month. Tell us about that move.
So coming up next month, we have a series of activities. We would have the official launch of the SBDC St. Kitts. So far we have already sort of operating under the SBDC model, because we would have already signed on as a SBDC through our MOU and our regional and international partners.
MOU being Memorandum of Understanding.
That's correct. Okay. Sorry, Memorandum of Understanding.
I just want to be, maybe it meant something else in the entrepreneurship world, so I just wanted to be clear that I knew.
That's correct.
Okay.
And no other meaning. So the Memorandum of Understanding was signed by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, and our partners, I think the OAS, as well as the University of San Antonio, where everything started with the SBDC. So from there we modeled the SBDC. We were in the second hall of countries to join the SBDC, being ourselves, I think Antigua and Bahamas, right? And before, I think they were Jamaica, Barbados, St. Lucia, and Dominique.
And that would be countries in the region.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Way before time, they have the SBDC Americas, those South American, Central American countries, as well as the member states, the states. Like we have SBDC Florida, SBDC Louisiana, that sort of thing.
Yeah, because when you told me about it, I remember saying, I think the United States has that kind of center.
Right.
And then you let me know that it was a whole network.
It's
so
a whole
network. Okay,
network.
this is bigger than I knew.
Right. So it's not something new to St. Kitts. Well, it's new to St. Kitts, but it's not something that we created. We're just adopting the whole model.
Yes.
So over the week, from the 12th to the 18th, we are having GEW week. GEW, which is the Global Entrepreneurship Week. It's a week celebrated every November for entrepreneurs all over. And so we are partaking in that week, and we will be having the launch of the SBDC officially on that day, which will be collaborated with a number of events. So if I may go through the events and the partners, for instance, Junior Achievement will be having a series of events for the GEW week, that being a school competition, a women's symposium from 5 to 7 under the theme Stepping In, Out and Up and Over. On Wednesday, targeting young entrepreneurs, stock exchange. From Thursday to Saturday, Build Your Business Weekend. And they will be having also daily school visits. You have asked for further information and registration, you can call 662-5160. That's 662-5160 for persons who are interested in those activities. As it relates to the Ministry of Youth and the Ministry of International Trade, we too will be hosting our events in collaboration with other stakeholders, that being the Ministry of Culture, the Ministry of Agriculture, as I said, Ministry of Youth, again Junior Achievement. And for that week, we would have something called Youth Sense, that's Youth in Business, and these are 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. sessions that will be held at the Ministry of Youth Conference Room. So on Tuesday, we have Logistics Regional Certification, so that we'll be able to compete regionally and know the ins and outs as it relates to that. We have Negotiation, Licensing and Trademark, and the following day we have Record Keeping and Financing. And on the 16th of November, that's the big one, that's where we have the Business Expo, where we would have tents and so on set up. Entrepreneurs can showcase their business, whether it be products or services, and we're looking forward to having a great time there. And on the 18th, we're having a GEW Business Mix-On that will be held at Uncle Fat's. So, and if I may revert back a bit, we will be operating under the theme No One Must Be Left Behind. That's the GEW theme. No one must be left behind. So that's as far as it goes in terms of the celebration in lead up to the launch of SBDC St. Kitts.
A light bulb just went off when you spoke about the small shop, because you came in here with a button on your shirt saying small shop, and I was like, I wonder if there was a reason for that.
Yes.
It's the same thing?
That's correct. So the expo will be under the theme Shop Small, actually. Shop Small.
Shop Small.
Shop Small.
Oh yes, Shop Small.
Right, so that's the theme for the expo. We're encouraging persons to shop small, partake of what we have to offer at the square, but not only at the square, but patronize the small businesses on that day. You know, in the US they have a Saturday, one Saturday in November, where they encourage customers to really focus on assisting the small businesses in terms of patronizing their businesses. So we want to mimic something of the same here. Not saying we're neglecting the larger businesses, but you know, for one day, let's you know, devote some
like
focus.
we say, let everybody get a do.
Yes, right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So what's going to be the format of the business expo? Is going to be like a broad exhibition, you know, how they usually are spread out on the square with different booths you can visit?
That's correct. We'll have businesses ranging from hair products to construction to craft. You name it, it will be there. You name it, it will be there. And again, we'll have a section. Part of the expo will be dedicated to the launch of the SBDC. So we'll have our official program to launch the SBDC, and then we go straight into the expo. Also, for persons who have services, they might be saying, well, you know, these trade shows are predominantly for persons who have something to sell, something tangible.
Manufacturers and people make things there.
But we thought of that, and we will have an open mic from 12 to 1. So persons who are in the services industry can just come up and make a plug for their businesses. Free advertising. You'll have the whole square listening. It'll be 12 to 1, so ideal, where most persons will be on their lunch break, so persons can come and share their businesses as from a services standpoint.
Oh, that sounds absolutely fantastic.
Right.
So if you have a small marketing budget, this is an opportunity for you to at least advertise and put all your things on display.
That's right.
So the launch takes place right there in the square. You're going to have an official ceremony.
Right, that's correct. We'll have an official ceremony with all, you know, the dignitaries and that sort of thing, to officially launch the SBDC St. Kitts. And then we, as I mentioned, we'll go straight into the trade show where persons can patronize the small businesses, and they'll be from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if you have a tight window as it relates to lunch, we'll be there still after work.
I'm quite interested about the model. You kept making reference to the small business development model. What is it about that model that's different to what NEDD is presently that's going to be of benefit to the division and to entrepreneurs?
That model, in fact, the SBDC model, is one that we sometimes describes as a hub and spokes sort of model, where we work with stakeholders. So it's networking all the way. For instance, our SBDC would be set up in such a way that the Chamber of Industry and Commerce would be one of our major stakeholders. The St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union would be another. And so we don't suggest that we have everything that an entrepreneur would need in-house, but we'll reach out to our stakeholders and collaborate with them in terms of providing services. The Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College is another, because it's a public-private sector academia sort of collaboration. And so matters of research, it might be where we can very well involve the CFB students. An entrepreneur might be getting into something that could use some good research. Then on the regional and the international level, we operate in the same way. Now, being part of an SBDC is being part of a network. Forming an SBDC is a network. And as Delwyn would have alluded to earlier, we have SBDC, we have the University of Texas, we have SBDCs across the Americas. And so we would have the opportunity to network across the globe and in fact make and create alliances for our SBDC, but for entrepreneurs on St. Kitts and Nevis as well. As a matter of fact, what we as Delwyn indicated, the first 5 CARICOM countries, because remember this program, this model started in the US, and the OAS would have supported our exposure to the model via allowing some of us, we here in NEDD, to travel to the US when they're having their big conferences and so on, their meetings and big conferences. And so the model was then offered to CARICOM. And so the first 5 CARICOM countries that started adopting this model, and we say we adopt and we adapt, would have been Belize, Jamaica, Dominica, St. Lucia, and Barbados. But at that point, St. Kitts and Nevis, I guess we are in the habit of punching above our weight. And so when the idea was thrown out that, well, the US would be willing to support CARICOM countries in adopting the model as well, St. Kitts and Nevis as early as 2012, when the first 5 countries would have agreed to adopt the model, indicated that we wanted to be a part of that as well. So here and that would be like 2012, so here we were 6 years later, we would have had our training for staff, SBDC staff, and persons who would be involved in SBDC activity, training entrepreneurs, etc., and utilizing the software. We would have had that last year, around June, July last year, and we had persons from the University of Texas, the trainers and the persons who can train people in the use of the software especially, come down and do some training for us. So, and our stakeholders, whom I just referred to, persons from the chamber, persons from the CFB, persons from the youth who we are collaborating with, they would have had some training in the use of the software. And I keep referring to the use of the software. The software is a software that comes with the SBDC model, known as near zero. And it's not just any software, but it's a software that will help us to perhaps earn our keeps. Because here we, providing support to entrepreneurs, we are supported by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. So of course, they will pay our salaries. We have one of the services that we offer is to help entrepreneurs to get that duty-free concession. Now that is the most probably interesting thing for entrepreneurs around here. We see persons in droves who come to the ministry and they're trying to get some duty-free concessions for their small business. Now that in itself is something that government is allowing. It is guided by the Small Business Development Act, the incentives, and so persons can apply and get some concessions based on the act. There are times when it may appear as though monies are being given away, but at the same time, we would also be mindful that it is for the development of a sector and for our people. There's employment generation. There is the fact that government would not be able to employ every young person, and we are trying to change our culture here. We are trying to suggest that you go to school and learn your lesson well and get a lot of O levels and A levels so that you could start your own business. Not that you could just go get a job, but create a job, create some jobs. And so we are using that software as well, so that we can show economic impact. It is a software that will be able to is able to allow us to record things properly and then report as to the impact, especially economically, of the SBDC and its functions, etc. So I said all of that to simply say that the transitioning from NEDD to an SBDC is really aimed at bringing benefits to a sector that we're trying to develop.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be really heavy come next month. And is your staff do you see your staff increasing? I know that they've had a lot of training, but this could very well mean that more people might want to access your services. How do you see that affecting your ability to perform efficiently? Or are you ready for that?
We are in fact preparing. Let's put it this way. We have seen and within the Ministry of International Trade, because of course the SPDC would operate from under the umbrella of the Ministry of International Trade, and so we have looked at our structures. Yes, there's the increase in staff. We are preparing for probably if we have boatloads of people coming into us to look for assistance and so on. But at the same time, remember I indicated networking, and so we are confident that with the minister having signed our MOU with the OAS and the University of Texas in July last year, even Minister Grant went after that, signaled that we have some partners, right? And so whatever we do, we know that we can reach out to our partners locally, regionally, and internationally for support in areas of helping to serve our entrepreneurs. So that is hope here. As a matter of fact, we had 2 members of staff who have gone off to some meetings very recently as it relates to how we put together that CARICOM network of SBDCs, and Ms. Richards can speak to that a little bit more than I can.
Okay. It's your time now, Danielle.
Well, yes, me and myself and my colleague, Kyla Gibson Dorr, would have traveled to Barbados to, network and to have an experiential experience with the other networks or the other SPDCs. We got the opportunity to, because we haven't launched yet, and others have launched. So we get the opportunity to speak and find out like what we can do to adjust, how the structures can help, and even look at them in terms of like best practices and so forth. And it really was a really good experience. We got to see that, our issues are not unique to us. So we feel a little bit, a little good knowing that, that we're not the only ones who might be dealing with certain things, but we get to learn from others. And it allows us, like we said, to have networking. So in the event that we might need some assistance from another SPDC, we have now that open. These experiences, the contacts, it's now open for us to do that.
We're going to take a short break now, and once we return, we're going to open the phone line so we can hear from our listeners and take your calls. And I'm also told that we can also facilitate questions via Facebook, which is very exciting. So if you're listening online via our Facebook page, SKNIS, then you can post your questions there. So we'll be back shortly.
Working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Roy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for You is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for You.
Welcome back to Working for You. My name is Jacqueline Bryan. I'm your host for today, and I'm joined by Mr. Philip Brown, who's the Director of Industry, Commerce, and the National Entrepreneurial Development Division, also known as NEDD. And NEDD is the focus of the conversation today. He's accompanied by Delwayne Delaney, who is the Project Officer at NEDD, and Daniel Richards, who is a Marketing and Industry Officer at NEDD. But while we're referring to it as NEDD, National Entrepreneurial Development Division, it will soon become, that's by November 16th, a small business development center. We were speaking about the benefits of that transition and how entrepreneurs in St. Kitts and Nevis stand to benefit. I said St. Kitts and Nevis. Is it St. Kitts and Nevis?
It is St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay.
Of course, Nevis would have its own, the agency, So what we'll end up with eventually is SBDC St. Kitts, which is Small Business Development Center, and SBDC Nevis. When we did our training, everybody would have gotten training at the same time. So, but the processes on St. Kitts may have just moved a little bit quicker than those on Nevis. And again, I think we would not want to leave our sister island out. So it's a St. Kitts Nevis project, just that we would have two different SPDCs in different islands.
So they spoke about some of the services that they offer for entrepreneurs, and they range anywhere from offering training seminars to helping with writing business proposals to applying for duty-free concessions, which you said is a very popular one. But do you think that with the coming of the Small Business Development Center, is that going to assist with helping business owners to access funding?
That is not in the immediate plan.
Okay.
And because as I indicated before, we are actually forming an alliance with the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union. They are the persons with the funds, and they would want to ensure that they can provide financing for entrepreneurs. As a matter of fact, the thinking is that they may not have been doing as much as they would want to do in that particular sector, the small business sector. And so while they would have the funds, we on the other end would provide the technical support, and so we would have an entrepreneur who is now getting some financing, being supported technically by the SBDC, and I guess that makes for a successful entrepreneur.
And I guess both agencies can work together to ensure that the individual meets whatever criteria is set by the financial institution. I know one is definitely that you have to have a business proposal, and financial projections can get a little bit tricky when you're not familiar with those. So if you have a question for the persons here, if you yourself are an entrepreneur, or maybe you have a family member who is already into business and you want to assist them, or you're trying to find out information on their behalf, you can call 465-2555. That's the local number, 465-2555. Or if you're a national living abroad and you're listening and you want to ask a question as well, maybe you plan on coming back home to set up your own business and you want some assistance there, you can dial 718-577-2961. That's 718-577-2916. And again, you can also post your question online via our Facebook page where we have our live stream. And I already have a question from Facebook, so I'm just going to ask it. The person wants to know if you're planning on starting entrepreneur education in school. That is an interesting question.
Entrepreneurship education in schools. I love that question, and for the basic reason that I think we've all agreed in some way, shape, or form that our education system may not have done everything that we would have wanted it to do.
We have a call? Okay, can we take this call as well? Okay, we'll get back to the question. Good afternoon, welcome to Working For You.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm just trying to find out, how do you go about making, to come and see the person?
Say again?
What's the number for the office?
Mm-hmm. She wants to know the number for the department. How do you get in contact with NEDD?
Okay.
Do you have another question, ma'am?
Not right now.
Okay, feel free to call back if you do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the numbers are 467-1634 or 467-1635 or 467-1203. So that's 467-1634, 467-1635 or 467-1203.
And I know there are lots of people who operate informally, and maybe things have been going really well for you and you realize, hey, I could make some real money from doing this if I had to have a little bit more structure and expand. And NEDD is definitely the place where you can get that kind of assistance and start rolling in some big dollars, I'm assuming, from your talent and your skill. So, Mr. Phillip, you were telling us about Mr. Brown. Sorry, you were telling us about
entrepreneurship in schools.
Yes.
And I was saying that, you know, our education system may not have been designed for our quote unquote bright students to become involved in starting their own businesses and so on. We have been in the schools on several programs. We've done presentations. There was a program known as the Agona program, where, you know, students have been taught entrepreneurship and so on. But what we've noticed is that it is geared towards what we call the lower stream students. Now, so it's a situation where you almost seem to be saying, well, since you can't do nothing else, try entrepreneurship. And I think that does a disservice to a sector that we really need to develop, because you also need the brilliant ones, as we call them, the quick, bright ones, to start businesses. I mean, you know, it is a sector that has the potential to grow and see lives changed. I mean, improve the living standards. I mean, contribute to our economy in terms of its overall development. And so, I would really hope that question would be posed in a way to the powers that be, as far as our education system is concerned, our syllabi is concerned, so that we could start slotting it. I know that there might be subjects in school that piano and whatever, but the entrepreneurship part of it is something that I believe that we need to place and structure in our education system, so that while it's not our call, we always make a plug and suggest that it is something that we need to do.
Having worked in this area for so long, have you ever heard that conversation come up?
Always. I think my response was not mine at all. It was simply the things that I would have been hearing around me. I mean, you know, even teachers when we go to the schools and so on, because you are in fact trying to change a mindset, and the students, too many of them who are in the lower stream, as we would put it, sometimes they really don't have any interest in what you're trying to force down their throats. So, you know, where you have the bright, outlooking students who may want to start a business. I mean, we have to, for want of a better word, I guess entrepreneurship is now becoming sexy. And so, you know, we really need to look at it as a means by which we can develop our country and you know, further impact positively our economy.
But I believe that it probably should be something that any student can access. You don't know who can become a successful entrepreneur, and really and truly, not to say that education is not important, but a successful education doesn't mean you're going to be a successful entrepreneur either. So it definitely should be something that's open to any student. Yeah. They should have that option to access that kind of training if it is going to be included in schools. And we hear a lot of talk about even introducing tourism, but that in itself might strengthen your argument for introducing entrepreneurship in schools, because within the tourism sector is a lot of small business operators doing their thing, right, as a little scooter rental here, a little safari tour there. So they could definitely benefit from this as well.
Thank you for helping us make the point.
No charge.
Well,
one cause.
I would like to say, well, even though it's not on the syllabus, we do have our collaboration with Junior Achievement. They do go into the schools and teach entrepreneurship.
Oh, that's still going on.
Yes,
fantastic.
It's just we've started, so our collaboration will still be there, and the students have the opportunity to still learn about entrepreneurship, how to do a business plan. They actually start their own businesses and so forth. So it's gonna be there, and hopefully that will also push the whole thing into education system itself.
For the benefit of our listeners, could you just explain briefly what the Junior Achievers program is?
Well, Junior Achievement was...
Junior Achievement program?
Yes, Junior Achievement, yes. Well, it was, I guess, incorporated to the USAID. And well, we always had this relationship with them. They would go into the schools. They started at that time. They started within high school, and they would go into the schools and they would teach them entrepreneurship, have them start their own business, help them with that, included funding. So they really did do business. They manufactured their own products and sold them. And with us, we also did trade. Worked a trade fair with them, so we got the opportunity to see them and have them sell their products. Now it should be going in more to starting into the primary school also. So with the Chamber of Industrial and Commerce, which is now the driver for junior achievement. So with that now, it's not just going to be targeting high school students, it's going even further to the primary school to really foster a culture of entrepreneurship.
Primary school, okay.
Yes, because hey, when you're small, you sell a little sucker here. My son once sell a punch rack for $1. Thought it was kind of expensive. But, you have to get them into it. We have some natural born salesmen and saleswomen. So, it's
That's
a good program to push for our students.
Yeah, if I might just add that junior achievement program, the business, the part of the program, because it's a program where entrepreneurship and so on is taught throughout the year, but there is the and I'm trying to find the word that they use for it, but is that program where they created a business. So you started a particular section of the program maybe around September, and you start teaching entrepreneurship and whatnot, and it culminates where they do the business plans, then they actually establish the business, and it culminates with a trade fair which we've collaborated with the Junior Achievement when it was funded by USAID a couple of years ago. There was of course, with all of these things where we get funding for a couple of years, when the funds run out, then the program runs out too. And so it didn't exist for about maybe 2 to 3 years. It's now back with the chamber, who would have connected with Jamaica and the originators of the program, would have gotten some funding, and so they have started the program again. And we are most grateful that they have chosen to collaborate with us again, so that we can feed into that program and be a part of the whole entrepreneurship thing in school and developing. So it's a really exciting venture, and we're looking forward to it.
It sounds exciting. So if you have a question, the numbers again, our phone lines are open, and you can call in anywhere between now and before we wrap up. The local number is 465-2555. That's 465-2555. And the international number is 718-577-2916. That's 718-577-2916. Let's talk about entrepreneurs themselves for a little bit. What do you find is the most prevalent issue among them? What are their challenges? The ones that affect them most? Are there so many? It's like, where to start? It's that kind of struggle.
For one, I think what jumps out when you ask that question is record keeping, lack of record keeping. A lot of small businesses don't know how much they're making because they just simply have no track record of what they've been doing ever since their business started. So when they do need to go to a bank and they say they have been in business for X amount of years and say, okay, let me see some track record, there's none. So then it puts them at a disadvantage, moving forward. A lot of the times, small business owners, that's not their main source of income, or they have an alternative source of income. So I might be working for government or somewhere, TDC, whatever, and I might be doing something, on the side as well, as we like to say. And because the business needs something, needs to pay a bill, I take monies out of my personal salary and pay it, not knowing that the business is constantly losing because you're subsidizing the business with your personal, whereas you're generally supposed to separate, personal from your business. So I think record keeping is a huge downfall as it relates to small businesses. They don't see it or don't deem it as important or necessary it's their money, and they feel like, okay, I spend it how I see fit. Whereas a record keeping will show, how paint a true picture as to how the business is doing. And it don't have to be nothing elaborate. It don't have to be the QuickBooks type of thing. It could just simply be, I spent this and I received X. And that's that. I mean, for starters at least. So I think that is a major issue. And if I could move on to another, if I could.
Oh, we have a call?
Okay.
Stick a pin. Don't forget that other. We're going to take this call. Welcome to Working For You. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Jackie, and your team there.
Good afternoon.
Very informative and educational and enlightening program. But my thing is this. Like you all said, education, get an education first, which is important, because if you're not educated about something, you cannot operate it. And then when you don't get the education now, and you're ready to start your own business now, as a poor, small person, don't have any capital, no way, and you want to start your business, you could start with a tray, selling a little marby and a toffee and a pinchy and a job and breaker, yes. But then it's how far and how quick you will reach to a place, a standard where you could step up and go rent a place to do your own business. So therefore, you start small and step up. But here the big problem now, doing that is like a small fish trying to swim between big fish waters. Because the amount of establishment coming in here in the country from other big countries, competing with our little small mommy and papi shop across the alley and through there. Those are the problem, Because them, they are getting money from the country to come out here, come open big supermarket to squeeze the little small man who just struggling on his own. So therefore, I think they will have to put a bar on those kind of people. You can't come in here, come open no more shop and supermarket to sell rice and flour and them thing. If you want to come in here, come do business, you got to come in here and open a business that you can teach people to make things. Not come in and compete with the shop them. That is my idea about it. Otherwise, small people ain't going to get nowhere.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Jackie, if I could, well, not necessarily respond to the caller, but he said something that struck a note with me. One of the reasons why the National Entrepreneurial Development Division, NEDD, would have been set up is for that the very reason he alluded to just now, where there's the big business who apparently had a structure and systems in place to provide them with support and the concessions, etc. And so one wondered, so what do we do with our small businesses? What kind of support do we offer them? Is there a structure? And so NEDD was established as a creature of the Small Business Development Act, which in fact prescribed is a framework for dealing with that small business sector. So it prescribed the things like the incentives and how you treat them and what are the entitlements, etc. So while I hear the caller, Vinci, one of my favorite bike racers, bicycle riders, there was bike racing in the park years ago that I enjoyed, and he was kind of my idol. So good afternoon, Vinci. But there are in fact efforts and continued efforts to ensure that our small business persons or entrepreneurs are in fact supported. There's not a lot we can do about what's happening in the global community, and that's something that a lot of us wouldn't know. When you talk about banning something, those things don't exist anymore. As you hear somebody tell you're going against the WTO regulations, etc. So our competition is not our neighbor, but is a man somewhere else that we can't see, like I mentioned before. However, it is important for us to recognize that we have to take advantage of the opportunities and the support that is being offered to us as petitions and divisions, as entrepreneurs, and sometimes you mentioned the informal sector, Jackie, because too many times, and Vinci said it, you could start with a trade, right? But there are opportunities for you to move up the ladder, right? And sometimes our entrepreneurs would prefer to remain in the informal sector. You know, the taxman, they're not going to pay the taxes, they're not going. But then at the same time, they would come and say, well, I need some duty-free concessions. Well, that doesn't happen unless you have a business license. And you know, I would like to encourage persons to get your business license, run a business above ground, get all the support that is offered by NEDD and the SBDC later. But you would be doing very well for yourself in the end, right? And your community, your country ultimately. So that is what I would say as far as you know, competition and the informal sector and so on is concerned.
And what about what you said about someone who probably did really well in school and would prefer to start work for themselves, but they just don't have a startup capital? How does one address that kind of situation?
You know, sometimes entrepreneurs see their biggest problem as financing, and too many times it's not. Because yes, we would need financing to do a number of things, but sometimes it's also that structure, that environment, the way you go about your marketing, your planning. You just don't run into a business because your neighbor is doing it and he or she seems to be making money. So while I agree that financing and you know, the good thing about what we are seeing now is that we're seeing the government getting involved, maybe through the development bank, per se, in providing financing for some of those very persons. You don't now have to bring your whole bedroom and your house and your TV and everything and rest it down to get some funds, because just as the caller would have said, there's some of us who don't have that kind of collateral and security. But yes, you have a good business plan, you're marketing properly and everything, and you can get some financing, especially through some of the programs that thankfully the government would have introduced.
Okay, fantastic. Delwyn, you remember that other point?
So that other point I alluded to earlier.
And that was that we were speaking about some of the challenges
right,
faced by entrepreneurs. Yes.
Just recently, and this challenge is not so much just from a NEDD standpoint, but that came out of a workshop or training that we had with a number of entrepreneurs, and the customer service came up. So much so that we took it upon ourselves on Thursday of last week. We conducted our first customer service training workshop. I think that is something that has been plaguing us in the Federation for some time. I mean, you go around and you're hearing customers talk about the customer service, you know what I mean, and how it can be improved. And what came out of that, if I may mention, that businesses now globally are not competing so much on a matter of price and quality. They are competing on a customer service standard and standpoint. So no more businesses trying to outdo their competitors. Say for instance, iPhone versus a Samsung. They're competing the customer service on a customer service level. So the customer service is of utmost importance now to small businesses, and I think that you know can be addressed a little more. Yeah.
And Jackie, just to add to what Delwyn is saying there with regards to trading, you know, one of the things that we do, because most entrepreneurs, they think they need money and they need duty free, but sometimes when they come into us, when we take a good look, we realize, but you don't even have a business plan. So where are you going to be 6 months from now? Can't. But what you say you're gonna be hold this idea, and they will just tell you, yeah man, it's gonna work, man, you know, and you say, well, show me, and they say, no, it gonna work, you know. And so what we've done is to kind of trap them at that point. Okay, you want duty free? Well, here's what we're gonna do. We do some training for startup businesses every 2 weeks or so, right? And so we're gonna slot you into the next one. And then as we're talking to them, we realized, but you don't have a business plan. We didn't even do some projections. But, and so we find a way to provide a holistic type service when they come in for this magical duty-free concessions, right? We are able to sometimes realize that they don't even have funding, but they are doing some vehicle or something because they had that little money and they're going to sell something using the vehicle. Sometimes the vehicle is not appropriate, and we have to speak to them about that as well. So we really attempt to provide a holistic type service when they come in for what they think they need.
Before we're gonna be wrapping up shortly, but before we do so, can you elaborate a little bit on the duty-free concession? What can persons really get? What can small businesses really get duty-free on? And what's the process?
The Small Business Development Act provides for incentives by way of concessions on equipment, machinery, plant, vehicle that one would use in the course of operating the business. Primarily when the act was done, and it's about time that we have some revisions before the legal department and so on, but government at the time would have looked at some of the priority areas, some of the areas that when you look through your economy you want to maybe develop these particular areas. And so there were 14 priority areas that would have received support by way of concessions and so on as the entrepreneur is getting into that area. We of course would be guided by where the ultimate decision is made by cabinet per se, right? But the act would specify and stipulate what are the requirements. Now, you have to qualify as a small business. We described earlier what a small business is like. There are certain other stipulations where you should have a business plan to show some projections over the next 24 months. You might be collaborating with another business to do what you're doing. You're generating some employment in the small business sector, etc. So there's criteria, and once you would have met that, then it goes to another government ministry where we get some input in terms of, and that ministry has the purse, so we have to speak to them in terms of giving away some of the monies that they thought they would collect, right? But it's a process whereby you would come in. Of course, you have to have a business license. So you have your business license. You're applying for concessions. You're within those parameters which I would have described in terms of the criteria and the items that you would be applying for duty-free concessions on. And it's relatively a smooth process. It does take a little time, depending on, because we would go out and visit the business site, etc. So it's not something you just write on a piece of paper. And like I said, we are trying to make sure that our concern is that business, for you to operate that viable business. So it's not just getting you some duty-free concessions, but we go out, we visit your business, we set up a structure, we will try and come back and visit you and all that kind of stuff.
Because ultimately, you want to ensure the business is going to be successful.
That is the ultimate goal.
Okay. Well, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to allow each of you to wrap up and give some closing thoughts. And Mr. Brown, in your wrap-up, if you can say what your vision is for what will become this Small Business Development Center in the future. So I guess we can start with Delwade and work through Daniel and move up to you.
Okay, since Mr. Brown will talk about the vision, I just want to make a further plug for the activities that are leading up to the launch of the SBDC. We have a week of activities under the theme No One Must Be Left Behind. That's the GEW, the Global Entrepreneurship Week, and we'll be the highlight of that week will be the Business Expo. That's on the 16th, Friday the 16th at the Independence Square from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Businesses who are interested, we have very, 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 very limited space left. We might have to squeeze in persons because they have been coming by the droves in terms of their interest in wanting to be a part. But persons who are into the services can use the open mic opportunity from 12 to 1. We'll be having live music there, and good festive atmosphere, and also the launch of the SPDC, the official launch will be happening there as well, to kick off the activities for the day.
Are you saying then that you still have space for persons to register?
Very, very limited.
And if someone wanted to register, how do they go about doing that?
They just can simply call the numbers that we listed earlier. I can repeat them: 467-1635, 467-1634, 467-1203. So very, 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 very limited. We do a first come, first serve basis. Just indicate your interest, your services or your product that you're seeking to showcase, and we go from there. So again, thanks for having us here, and we look forward to further collaborations. Thanks.
Okay, this is my turn. Okay, I just want to encourage entrepreneurs, small business owners to come into NEDD, well, soon to be our SPDC, and to take advantage of our services and to come out to the launch. And you can meet our SPDC team also on the 16th of November. Mr. Brown.
Right, Jackie, we are delighted that we will be able to at least help to spread the word of entrepreneurship and the services that we provide at NEDD, soon to be SPDC. What I would like to see in the near future is that we have a thriving small business sector. I think we are doing as much as we can to help to develop that sector, and as a matter of fact, our collaboration with the youth department brings to the fore another one of our objectives, that youth entrepreneurship development. I mean, it's the future. The youth is the future. The continuity. I mean, we're probably looking for another hospital, another TDC. I mean, if the youths. And so our collaboration with youth, the youth department, in terms of helping to establish and run incubators, and that is something I'm looking forward to over the next couple of years, to have an incubator where our SBDC is feeding into that incubator with the technical support, and we are churning out entrepreneurs and more entrepreneurs.
Absolutely fantastic. And anything you'd like to encourage entrepreneurs with before you go?
I am normally disgusted when I travel around the region, go to meetings, and there is perhaps funding available, maybe grant funds, some opportunities available, and when you look at the table, you see Jamaica 100, Trinidad 60 something, Grenada 30, and then you look for St. Kitts and you see 1. It is telling me that our people are not pursuing the opportunities out there. Our entrepreneurs, in the same way the Sheriff I'm training here.
But do you think that they're aware? That would play a very important role in whether or not they take advantage of these things. Do they know?
That's a whole other conversation.
Okay.
we could talk about. But of course, yes, and areas like grant funding and so on. There's some bits of criteria that sometimes make us don't qualify. For instance, you have to produce 2 years of record keeping our accounts in order to qualify to get some grant funding.
And I guess that would be a real challenge based on what they'll
exactly. So I'm encouraging our entrepreneurs to start right. Put your systems and run a business. A business is a business. It's a real business. And so if you start it that way, then you're able to access the opportunities and so on.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure having you here and hearing about all the fantastic services that you offer to business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs. I know that, I'm not saying I'm hoping, I know that your event on the 16th is going to be successful, and I think we're all going to be excited to see what small business owners have to offer in the federation. I truly believe that locally we're ready to support them once we can see what they have and we become familiar with it. So thank you so much for joining us here and working for you. I'm looking forward to having you back, even if it is with Mr. Will. Don't be strangers. And thanks to everyone who tuned in today via radio or online for listening. Thank you so much for your interaction, our calls, and your questions. It was much appreciated. My name is Jacqueline Bryan. I was your host for today. That wraps up today's program. So remember, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. it's live on ZZ and partner radio stations. You can hear it. Then there's a rebroadcast, so don't miss it. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Roy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for you is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for you.